Good morning, and thank you all for joining us today for a very exciting announcement in the City of Syracuse. I'm Rob Simpson, President of Center State's CEO, and also have the good fortune of serving on the Central New York Regional Economic Development Council. Before we get started, just want to introduce a few key special guests today. First, New York State Assemblyman Bill Magnarelli. New York State Assemblyman Al Sturpey. Onondaga County Executive Joni Mahoney. Mayor of Syracuse Stephanie Miner. The Director of the New York State Canal Corporation Brian Stratton. My co-conspirator on the Economic Development Council, the Chancellor of Syracuse University Nancy Cantor. The Senior Director of Starwood Hotels and Resorts Worldwide, John Salvatore. President of COR Development Companies, Steve Aiello. Our former Mayor of the City of Syracuse, Tom Young. And all of our local and county officials, thank you all for joining us. It was almost 3 years ago that the governor launched the Regional Economic Development Councils to transform the way Albany does economic development. He empowered each of the state's 10 regions to control their economic future by gathering professionals from the business sector, from academia, from our civic communities and our neighborhoods to work together and develop strategic plans for the economic growth that would be best for the region. Now here we are almost 3 years later, beginning to see the fruits of that labor, of the hard work of those councils, real tangible development projects that are taking place in our communities, revitalizing our waterfronts, and creating jobs right here in Central New York. Here in Syracuse, we've undertaken an ambitious project to completely transform the Inner Harbor, our city's waterfront, by partnering with the state and the city, as well as COR Development. All told, there will be more than $350 million in investment taking place on these 28 acres immediately out the window. Valuable waterfront property that had been underused and neglected for years, turning it into a residential center, educational and commercial and mixed-use district, a brand new neighborhood right here in the city of Syracuse. We've completed the first phase of the project, some pre-development work and environmental remediation. And in the next two phases, that work will continue with new infrastructure, additional environmental improvements, and renovations to existing buildings. We also plan to build 2 new buildings with commercial and residential space. When this project is fully completed, the Syracuse Inner Harbor will be primed for private development with new residential, new office, retail, educational, hotel, and community facilities for our entire region's benefit. And today we're taking a major step forward in turning that vision that's been developed over years into a world-class waterfront into a reality. This will position Syracuse for future investment and job growth and help the entire Central New York regional economy. Thank you, and it is now my pleasure to introduce John Salvatore.
Thanks so much, Rob. Good morning, all. Again, I'm John Salvatore with Starwood Hotels and Resorts, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here today in Syracuse, and I want to thank you all for having me. We're here today to make this very exciting announcement. Starwood, with help from Governor Cuomo and COR Development, will bring one of our world-class brands here to the city of Syracuse, to this beautiful property, and to the people of this region. Project is made possible in part by funding from the Governor's Regional Economic Development Council initiative, which looks for innovative and productive ways to take advantage of unused or underused space like this magnificent harbor. The new facility, as you'll see here in the picture, it's an Aloft by W Hotels. It will be a 130-key hotel. About $18 million to cost, about 75,000 square feet of this $350 million project, and we're extremely excited. A few years ago, as was mentioned by Rob, we probably wouldn't have looked at this opportunity as a viable project. So I'll tell you, this is a real testament to the governor's work here, to the economic stimulus that's been going on here in the region, and we're incredibly excited. So we want to thank the governor for his hard work. And also, whether he's a whitewater rafting to show off the Adirondacks or taste testing some of New York's delicious produce, you could tell this is a governor dedicated to growing the industries that grow New York. So again, thank you for that, Governor. Thank you so much. And now it is my pleasure to welcome Mayor Stephanie Miner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is truly my pleasure to be here today. This is a day that those of us here in Syracuse and in Central New York have been working for a very long time. And I would be remiss if I did not call attention to the fact of one gentleman who has been thinking about this day for years and years and years. And little did I know when I became his successor that he would make sure that I thought about it often as much as he did. And that's Mayor Tom Young. So I want to thank Mayor Young for his vision. And his hard work and dedication and all that he has done into thinking about this project and helping all of us make it a reality. But as with anything that is viable and truly meaningful, it only happens when you have partners. And we are excited to be here today to talk about those partners that made it possible. Of course, as John came in and talked about Starwood, COR Development, and the state of New York, and of course, Governor Cuomo, and the Regional Economic Development Plan. Obviously, none of this would have been possible had not all of these partners gotten together and stayed focused on this goal. And this goal is a $350 million project to revitalize the Inner Harbor. And it will move us forward, not only creating much needed jobs in our region and generating economic activity for our region, but it will also have a far-reaching impact on the canal system and upstate New York. And again, all of that happens because of the examples of partnerships across government lines, across governments and businesses, and everybody working together. I want to thank Governor Cuomo for the state's support. I want to thank Rob and Chancellor Cantor for their support as co-chairs of the Central New York Regional Council. And of course, I want to thank COR Development and Starwood for making this day a reality that so many of us have thought about for so long. It is now my pleasure to introduce a woman who truly has epitomized what a partnership can do for a community when political leaders work together. And that will be no surprise to all of you. That is, of course, our own County Executive, Joni Mahoney.
Good morning. Good morning, Governor. Welcome to Syracuse. It is a pleasure to be here today with Mayor Miner. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. The members of the state legislature and, of course, our Governor Cuomo. Over the past few years, I've had the opportunity to work with all of the folks that you're hearing about here today. And time and time again, as the mayor said, we've put politics aside and we've worked for the people of Central New York. And I think we're really starting to see the fruits of that strategy and that labor. And we are the two-time winner of the Governor's Regional Economic Development Council process, the first of our 2 wins, right, Governor? Okay. That was a yes. That was a yes. I saw that. The plans that we've put together with all of the folks rolling up their sleeves and going to work, and we've had Chancellor Cantor and Rob Simpson at the helm of that Regional Economic Development Council process. We've really put some great plans together, and as is evidence, this is a prime example here of what's happening in the Inner Harbor. In June of 2011, Governor Cuomo did things very differently. He said, I'm going to bring the academic leaders, the business leaders, the labor leaders, and government all together to the table to work together. And I think he knew what we are now learning, and that is that when we come together, great things can happen. We are in the process now of round 3, and we are in full swing of implementing the first 2 REDC awards that we've benefited from. And I know the governor was here not too long ago on a bus tour looking at some of the projects and seeing that very quickly we have taken what the state has provided and we're turning it into real projects and making Central New York the place that we all want to live, work, and play, as they say. And it's the result of an immense amount of dedication from the people that are part of this REDC process. I want to thank Governor Cuomo for his partnership in the last few years. I look forward to working together. We have not had a governor that has been more committed to upstate New York than Governor Andrew Cuomo. I'm very proud to be a member of your team, and I thank you for all you're doing for us here. And I have the benefit and the pleasure of introducing my friend, Assemblyman Bill Magnarelli.
Thank you, County Executive, for that introduction, and thank you, Governor, for inviting me to take part in this exciting announcement. I get to see the Governor during our time in Albany, but it is always great to welcome him here to the 129th Assembly District. That's where we're sitting, and it's great to have him here. It's great to have him here so that we can show off the progress that has been made over the last few years. A lot of people talk about how the Governor has turned the tide in Albany, how he has gotten government to function again. And while we can see the results coming out of the Capitol, 3 on-time balanced budgets, the lowest tax rate for the middle class in 60 years, and landmark programs that help controlled spending, projects like the development of the Inner Harbor are what Central New Yorkers get to see and experience firsthand. When the Governor proposed the idea of the Regional Economic Development Councils, a bottom-up approach to economic development that empowered the regions and completely overhauled the existing model, many people were skeptical. But 2.5 years later, with shovels in the ground, jobs being created, and businesses like Starwood investing in New York more than ever before, I think it's safe to say that this progress is not only working, it has exceeded our expectations. These projects are producing real results in New Yorkers that haven't seen that much progress in upstate New York for decades. It has been a pleasure to work with Governor Cuomo in Albany, but even more so when you come back home and see the tangible results of that effort. I thank Rob Simpson, Chancellor Cantor, and my fellow Economic Development Council members for their hard work and dedication to Syracuse and Central New York, and commend them for carrying out the Governor's vision. Thank you, and it is my honor to welcome our Governor of the State of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. I did bring the weather today. I want you to know that. First to Bill Magnarelli, who's a fantastic representative, obviously, for his district, but his voice is also heard statewide. He's been a great colleague to me. Let's give him a round of applause, Bill Magnarelli. To Assemblyman Al Sturpey, who's here, thank you for your leadership, Al. Let's give him a round of applause. John Salvatore, Starwood, welcome, welcome, and bring back many more hotels. Starwood, pleasure to be with you. To your outstanding county executive, Joni Mahoney, pleasure to be with you. Mayor Stephanie Miner, Rob Simpson, and Nancy Cantor. Let's give them another round of applause. And as a personal point of privilege, Stephanie mentioned a really fantastic mayor. Mayor Tom Young has been a friend to me. He's been a mentor to me. His example has taught many of us the proper way to do public service. He's a man of vision. He's a man who always saw the future. He was a man who was exquisite at making government work on all levels, bringing people together. The word today is partnership, cooperation. Getting people to work towards a common goal. That is Tom Young, and I'm so honored that he's here today. Tom Young, let's give him a round of applause. Everything has been said, just not everyone has said it when you get to this point in the program. The key to success is 2 steps. Step 1 is to have a good idea. Step 2 is to do it. The Inner Harbor was a really good idea, and it's been a really good idea for a really long time. Where we had trouble was on the doing it, on the making it happen. And that's not just here at the Inner Harbor, it's not just Syracuse, not just Central New York, it's a story that's all across the state of New York. Our issue has been implementation and actually making it happen. And I believe there's a negative synergy and there's a positive synergy. When you're not acting and you're not moving forward, the negative begets the negative. The inverse is also true. When you're growing and you're building and things are happening, the positive begets a positive. And for too many years, we were in a negative state, especially in upstate New York. They've talked about the economic up and downs for New York State and the nation. Yeah, but upstate New York has been stagnant for a long time. And today is a much, much different point in that trajectory. I used to work at the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And when I'd be flying into a city, I'd literally look down as we're coming into the airport, and you could count the cranes that are up in the air. And the more cranes, the more building, the more success that was coming to that region. Because you are either growing and developing, or you are shrinking and being left behind. And today, when we put these metaphoric shovels in the ground, we're talking about a new future for upstate New York. A can-do future, a positive future, a future that sees people working together. Why did this happen today? Well, you heard it. Rob Simpson and Nancy Cantor and a lot of good people came together on something called the Regional Economic Development Council, which is just put everyone at one table, all the leaders from the entire region, and let's plan a future and let's go. And by the way, Nancy Cantor, you are going to be sorely missed on the REDC, and you're going to be sorely missed at Syracuse. Nancy Cantor. And the local officials have come together, and the county's working with the city in a way that hasn't happened in the past, and the county and the city are working with the state of New York in a way that hasn't happened in the past, and you put all that positive energy together, and you have a day like today. And a day like today will beget more days like today. And that's all we needed. We just needed help in the implementation. We just needed help in getting the shovel in the ground. Because upstate New York has every asset imaginable. Starwood knows what they're doing. They're a very smart company. They develop all across the planet. They wouldn't be here if they didn't look at these assets and say, we have a future. They do this for a living, and they do it exquisitely well. You look at all across upstate New York, any asset you could imagine, anything you could need, we have here in upstate New York. The best schools in the nation, the best healthcare institutions in the nation, the best geography, the best history, the best workforce, whatever you want, we have right here in upstate New York. We just have to recognize it, get to work, and make the future happen. Make the future happen. And that's what today is all about. And today is the beginning of a new era for Syracuse. And it's been a long time coming, and a lot of people deserve the credit. But I'm pleased and proud to be part of it today. Thank you for having me.
Governor, none of this would be possible without you and your leadership. Thank you so much. Folks, that concludes our program for today. Thank you all for joining us. Enjoy the gorgeous weather outside.